You know, we've all been told that a tough day at work is supposed to stay at work, but what actually happens when the pressure from your job just follows you right through the front door and spills into your home life? Well, today we're going to break down the science of why that happens and, way more importantly, what you can actually do about it. You know the feeling, right? You walk in and the stress of the day is like this heavy coat you just can't take off. Suddenly it feels impossible to connect. You're distant, maybe a little irritable, or maybe you just want to find a quiet corner and be left completely alone. Well, listen, if that's you, it turns out that feeling isn't some kind of personal failing. You're not broken. It's actually a really well-documented psychological phenomenon, and understanding what's going on inside your head is the first and honestly the most powerful step to managing it. So what's really happening here? It all starts with this core concept that researchers have a name for, the spillover effect. Think of it like this. Your brain doesn't have some neat little switch you can flip from work mode to home mode. All that stress, the frustration, the mental exhaustion from your workday, it all gets carried right across the threshold of your front door. It's like an emotional oil spill, and it can affect pretty much everything it touches. And to really get our heads around this, we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating study by a guy named Mark Schultz and his team. See, they didn't just ask people how they felt. Nope. They used daily diaries to get this moment-by-moment snapshot, tracking couples to see exactly how the stress of one person's workday rippled through the relationship that very same evening. And this, right here, is where their findings get really interesting. The study uncovered that men and women don't just experience this spillover, they often experience it in completely different and sometimes clashing ways. It's a classic case of his stress versus her stress. This single sentence is pretty much the key to the whole thing. See, under normal, low-stress conditions, men's and women's behaviors at home might look pretty similar. But the second you add the pressure of a stressful workday into the mix, it's like a chemical reaction. All those differences suddenly become super sharp and distinct. So what does that actually look like in real life? Well, the data tells a pretty surprising story. After a tough, draining day, men actually became less angry, but way more withdrawn. They kind of pulled back into themselves. On the flip side, women became more angry and also more withdrawn. You see the dynamic here? They're both pulling away, but the emotional vibe is completely different. So you gotta ask, why the difference? Well, one of the main theories is that men often withdraw as a way to self-regulate. It's like hitting the brakes to calm their nervous system down and get back to neutral. For women, though, that spike in anger might come from the crazy conflict between a draining workday and the immediate demands of home and family. Or, and this is important, it could be a frustrated attempt to engage, to say, hey, I'm struggling over here and I really need to talk about it. Okay, so right about now you might be thinking, that's all well and good for stressed out couples. But in a really happy marriage, all that negative stuff would just disappear, right? Well, this is where the study found something completely counterintuitive, something I'm calling the happy marriage paradox. It turns out a happy marriage doesn't act like some kind of magic shield that blocks the stress. Instead, it works more like a prism. It takes that exact same stressful energy and bends it, completely changing the meaning and the impact of these behaviors. Just check this out. In really happy, satisfying marriages, men who had a stressful day were even less likely to show anger at home. It's almost like they felt safe enough to just fully disengage and recharge. But here's the wild part. Women in those same happy marriages were even more likely to express anger after a stressful day. What on earth is going on here? And this is where the paradox becomes kind of brilliant. The researchers suggest that for a woman in a secure, loving relationship, expressing that anger isn't necessarily a destructive thing. It's actually a sign of incredible trust. It's an act of engagement that says, I feel safe enough with you to show you the messy, frustrated, real version of me right now. It's a bid for connection, not an attack. So knowing all of this, knowing these different responses and motivations, how do we use that information when our partner walks through the door all stressed out? The answer starts by fighting one of our most common and deeply ingrained instincts. Okay, so your partner comes in fuming about their boss or some project that went sideways. What's your first instinct? For a lot of us, it's to offer solutions, right? To fix it, to tell them why it's not so bad. But this backfires so often because, even though we mean well, it can feel really invalidating. It accidentally sends the message, you shouldn't be feeling this way. So the crucial move here is to just switch the order. Connect before you correct. Before you try to solve a single thing, you have to validate. You have to show them that you get why they feel the way they do. Once they feel truly heard and seen, then and only then can you ask if they want to brainstorm some solutions together. And this is what validation sounds like. It's not agreement, it's not a solution, it's just pure empathy. It communicates, hey, you're not crazy for feeling this way, and you're not in this alone. It instantly aligns you as a team against the problem instead of opponents in a debate. Okay, so that idea of validation, that's the absolute foundation. Now let's build on that with a broader relationship toolkit. These are powerful, research-backed strategies for making your relationship not just stress-proof, but actually stronger every single day. First up is something I think is a total game changer. It's called active constructive responding. And here's the surprising part. Research actually shows that how you respond to your partner's good news is a better predictor of relationship strength than how you respond to their bad news. ACR is all about leaning in with genuine, enthusiastic interest when they share a win, no matter how small it seems. So you can see there are basically 4 ways to respond, right? But only one of them actually builds the relationship up, and that's the one in the top left box, active and constructive. All the other 3, whether you're undermining the news, being kind of dismissive, or hijacking the conversation to make it about you, they all subtly chip away at trust over time. Finally, we gotta talk about the work of the legendary Gottman Institute. They identified 4 communication styles that are so destructive, especially when we're stressed, that they call them the 4 horsemen, because they so often predict the end of a relationship. But the good news is, for each one, there's a powerful antidote. So instead of launching into criticism, which is like an attack on your partner's character, you learn to use a gentle startup that focuses on your feelings. Instead of getting all defensive and shifting blame, you practice taking responsibility for even just a tiny part of the problem. And when you feel yourself stonewalling, just totally shutting down, you learn to call a timeout. Take a 20-minute break to calm yourself down before you try to talk again. But that 4th horseman, contempt. This is the one you really have to watch out for. We're talking about sarcasm, mockery, eye-rolling. The Gottmans found this is the single most corrosive of them all. It's basically relationship poison because it communicates disgust. And the only antidote is to actively, intentionally build a culture of appreciation and respect. So as we wrap this up, look, this isn't just about understanding the science of stress. It's about actively choosing which tools you're going to use. So what's it going to be? Will you try validating before you problem solve? Will you make a point to celebrate a small win with active constructive responding? Or maybe swap out one harsh criticism for a gentle startup? Think about it. Because these small, intentional shifts are what can transform our home from a place where stress lives into a place of peace.